Good morning, everybody. This is not the video I wanted to do, but I'm going to share my testimony. My name is Amanda. God refers to me as Zion. I'm also the mother of angels. And for the past 10 years, there has been a premeditated attack on me via the government using gang stalking operatives, as well as technological warfare, like laser technology, hacking my phone, paying like YouTube stars to come against me. It's been a mess, and I'm going to tell you about the story. I'm going to tell you the story. Sorry, my buttons are I'm not scared, but I am concerned, and I'm concerned for my life, and I'm going to share this testimony. It's going to be hard, but we're going to do it, okay? Just bear with me. I'm a little agitated because I was served with an eviction notice this morning. 10 years ago, when Trump and Hillary were running against each other for presidency, I received a download. It was a download that gave me the ability to become enlightened. And what I mean by that is I channeled a technique that at the time I thought did away with my PTSD brain. So PTSD brain is like a looping brain, like when you have flashbacks, your brain just loops. So I have a lot of trauma in my past, a lot of family trauma from relationships, a lot of betrayal in my past. So as a result of that, I had a lot of flashbacks from the post-traumatic stress. So when I would get these flashbacks, I would just have this looping in my head, loop, 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 loop. Well, during the election, I started noticing that there was something going on with the algorithms. I started noticing the patterns in the algorithms, and specifically, I started noticing when I would communicate with another person on my phone, then the data in my news feeds, like on YouTube or like today it would be TikTok, the data would change. So it was like the data from my phone was interacting with the data from the other person's phone, coming together to produce an effect on my timeline or my newsfeed. So I noticed those patterns. I began to use them to my advantage. And so if there were any negative patterns that showed up, I would play a brain game technique that God sent me, and I would flip like the negative to positive. So say I would interact with like someone from my past who created trauma. Let's just call him Adam. And Adam had maybe done certain things to me. When I would interact with this person, and then I would go back to like YouTube, I would notice like little changes that reflected the relationship that Adam and I had. So I used that information, the negative information. I would see the negative information and I would turn it immediately into a positive, or I would see positive information and I would confirm. So it was a matter of confirming and affirming the observations I was making on my phone. So this brain game technique, I played around with it for like a long time. I was going through a really difficult time in my life, kind of like what I'm going through now. And I would use the technique to relieve the looping thoughts that I had in my brain, because it gave me relief. So if I saw like a negative thought and I didn't agree with that negative thought and put a positive spin on it and then confirmed it, then it made me feel better. And so I kept doing that over and over and over again with this data that was coming into my phone, until I had an experience one night. It was a supernatural experience. I essentially experienced, some people call it Kundalini. I call it the Spirit of God, because I have only ever been a Christian. So doing this technique repeatedly over and over and over again for 3 months produced an alchemical process within my brain. What I mean by that, it was a quantum event within my brain. And what I mean by that is I connected these two parts of my brain and healed the cerebellum in the middle. So basically, I lit up my cerebellum. And I had a very supernatural experience when this happened. I was sitting in my apartment in Fairhope, Alabama. And it was late at night. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I felt something shift in my brain while I was doing the technique. I had a vision that my crown chakra opened. I released 3 demons from my body. These demons were trapped in my spine. It was Jezebel, King Ahab, and the god Baal. During the supernatural experience, the air was cleansed, this beautiful smell. If you've ever smelled God, it's like a beautiful magnolia. I call it like a robot, kind of like a robot smell, but like a good smell, like sweet robot almost. I don't know how to explain it, but it was God. It was God's smell. So I released the 3 demons from my crown chakra. The air came in, purified the room I was in. They let me know who I was expelling. My grandmother came in. My grandfather came in. And this started my journey of spiritual enlightenment. I ended up going through psychosis because I did not know what was going on. I was going through a separation with my ex-husband. We were running out of money, kind of like I am now. I was having to sell everything. I had just come into a small amount of an inheritance from my grandfather, and I had used that to build a business that didn't take off. I'll get to that later. Well, it became popular within the community. So I did make a little bit of money on the business, but not enough to like really keep the flow going, you know. So I ended up leaving my ex-husband. Well, during the election, this is all going on, the election between Trump and Hillary, this is all going on during that time. And I'm picking up on a lot of like secret government stuff because my mind is now expanding. So I'm researching like the Clintons. It's kind of like what happened this last election. The same kind of psyop stuff happened. All this conspiracy stuff came out. And I started receiving prophecy from God, Yahweh. Part of the prophecy that I received was Trump was to serve 7 years, and then he would be gone after the 7th year. Nothing bad would happen to him, but he just wouldn't be serving anymore. That's all I received. I know now, because of what has recently happened, that I was living amongst the Illuminati in South Alabama. I was residing in a little town called Fairhope, and when I left my ex-husband, those people, they had caught wind of what I had downloaded. I was working at a bookstore, and somehow, well, I became friends with a friend of theirs. His name was Ryan, and we kind of started a business together, a media business together called Creek House Media. So we worked together for like a year, maybe a year and a half, and I always had the feeling, again, I was still going under like the process of enlightenment. So I was like very much weighing the yes and the no, the black and the white, the duality of the situation that I am. It was almost like I was living in 3D, but my brain was in 5D. So I was working on balancing those two. So I was going through psychosis. I was also drinking heavily. I was doing drugs. I was not in my best state of mind at the time. So that added to a lot of the agitation that I was going through. But anyway, I made friends with this guy named Ryan. We started a business, and I moved into his creek house, and we began a relationship. I did not know at the time that I was sleeping in the enemy's house. But the agitation became so bad that after a year, I ran back to my mom's house in Jasper, which is in North Alabama. And when I got there, it was more of the same that I had grown up with as a kid. A lot of alcohol abuse between me and my mom both. They harassed me pretty badly. The same tactics that they've used in the past year were the same tactics they used 10 years ago. So there was a lot of hacking into my phone. Taking pictures of me from my front camera and harassing me with that. My mom was also on my case really bad because I don't know why. She didn't want to support me, that's for sure. So I lived in Jasper for about 6 months. At this point, it was 2 years out from when I first had the spiritual enlightenment experience. So I stayed in Jasper for 6 months. Of course, I ended up making friends with the people that would supply me with what I needed. So my drug addiction got even worse. My alcoholism got even worse. Not too much worse because I didn't have a lot of money, because I would try to get a job and I didn't have a car at the time. So I had to rely on my mom because I was living at her house. But she would like sabotage any effort I made to get a job. Like I tried to get a job at Papa John's. She wouldn't take me to my first shift. I tried to get a job at like Church's Chicken. She wouldn't drive me there. I was really trying to do better for myself. And at that point in my life, I was very distraught. I was very distressed. I was very scared. I was just like I said, my spiritual enlightenment happened. I had spent the past 2 years learning about the Bible. T.D. Jakes was a very big teacher of mine, as well as Jordan Peterson. And I started like really opening myself up to Christianity and to a personal relationship with God, not a church relationship, but a personal relationship with God. He began to reveal things to me about Solomon, King David, Jesus, Moses, Mary Magdalene. He was initially taking me through spirit-led initiation. Hecate came. All the gods and goddesses were coming to me to lead me through initiations. Oh, goodness. Okay. So like I said, I had made friends with some, scrupulous characters. And I ended up staying the night with someone one night. Well, this is difficult to talk about. And the man that I stayed with, he was a friend of a friend. And I was introduced to him through a friend who said, oh, you and this guy will probably get along really well. Y'all are like very similar. Y'all talk about the same kind of topics. And I was like, okay. So my friend took me to this other guy's house. It was out in the middle of Sipsey Wilderness, which is in Walker County, Alabama. I had no idea where I was, and I didn't have cell phone service, and there was no Wi-Fi at the house. So I got to the house about 10 a.m. in the morning, and I was writing all this stuff down. So I carried on a backpack similar to the one I carry now. I was carrying around a backpack full of notebooks of things I had been writing every day. I'm a writer and I like to journal, so I journal every day. I have about 50 notebooks full of things I've been through the past 10 years. So I was carrying around my backpacks, and so while I was sitting at the house, I was like talking to the sky. I was real naive. I was still very naive because I pretty much raised myself as far as like morals and values go. Well, my grandparents had a lot to do with that, but anyway. So I was sitting at the house with this guy, and I'm playing in my notebook and reading my Bible and doing the things that I do. And it came nighttime, or it's about to be nighttime. This was in March of 2019. Yeah, March of 2019. Yeah. So it starts to get dark, and we're listening to NPR, or it's on in the background, you know. And so we're sitting in his living room, and because I've been like writing and reading and stuff, I haven't really like looked up to notice that there's like doll heads hanging on the wall. And I walk outside, and there's like a doll laying in the driveway. And I got really scared because I knew that I was being attacked. I knew I was being harassed, but I didn't know exactly what was going on. But the doll scared me. I went back in the house, and like I said, NPR was on the radio just in the background, and I heard NPR say, she's got to get out of that house. She's got to get out of the house. The guy that I was staying with, he had already gone to lay down, but I just knew there were eyes on me all around. I grabbed my backpack because I knew that's what they wanted, was my information in my notebook. They wanted to know about this technique. They wanted to know about this enlightenment that I had, that I was working on bringing forth to the public. And at the time, during all this, I was steadily using my notebooks, using my note cards, trying to put the message out. But like I am today, I was also suppressed back then, so the videos didn't make it out. There might be an old video on YouTube, actually. I'll probably pull it up and see if it's still there, of the state that I was in. So I walk out the front door. It's nighttime. We're in the middle of Sipsey Wilderness. It's called Sipsey Wilderness for a reason. I start running. As I start running down the road, it's pitch black, okay? It's stars in the sky, forest for miles. I start running. As soon as I walked out that door and started running, there were like 10 dogs that just like came out from the shadows. I didn't run at that point. I walked very, very carefully past those dogs, hiding my fear, because I knew that if I showed fear or even acknowledged that they were there, that they would like come after me, right? As soon as I got past the dogs, I started running down the street, and it came to a substation, electric substation. At this point, a helicopter had showed up with a spotlight. I'm not kidding y'all, this is true. I hid behind the substation for a while until I felt the need to go. That's when I dropped my backpack with all my notebooks and the techniques and all that. So I start running through the forest, running through the woods, okay? Running through the wilderness, because at this point I know, with the helicopter, the dogs, and the house that I was at with the doll heads, I knew that I was under attack. Physical attack, not just spiritual attack. At this time, like I said, I had just awakened my spiritual abilities, and I was still trying to figure everything out on my own. I had no one to talk to except God. So I start running through the wilderness. A thought comes into my mind. Some of my clothes had gone missing, and I hear the dogs in the background, and I'm like, wow, they stole my clothes to get the dogs the scent of me so the dogs can chase me down. All right, I'm still hearing the dogs in the background. And by this point, there's about 5 or 6 vehicles It's like I said, we're out in the wooded area. There's like 5 or 6, sounds like trucks, vehicles. And it's obvious that they're there because they weren't making noise before, but they're busy circling the little area that I'm in because I can hear their like car engines because we're in the middle of nowhere. So like 5 or 6 vehicles were chasing after me as I'm running through the woods. Well, I think that the dogs have my scent, so I stripped down because I didn't want, at the time I was thinking, I don't want them to smell my scent and come find me. I came to a church. I ended up dropping my Bible and I stripped down, ran through the woods, jumped over a chain link fence. Granted, I'm naked. Jumped over a chain link fence, ran through a field. I see the helicopter above with the spotlight. I keep running, I keep running, I keep running. I come upon another chain link fence and I jump. Then I find an old, like a farm truck out in the woods, and it's unlocked. So I get in there and I hide for a little bit. I get out of there. I end up going into this person's backyard and I hear the dog barking, but thank God the dog stopped barking when I walked into the backyard. As I'm in the backyard, like the lower part of the backyard, I see this huge cross. It like appeared out of nowhere. A huge white cross with lights lit the cross up. I'm gonna cry. I run to the cross. I run to the cross. I look to my right. Across the street, there's a storm drain. A storm drain, like an aqueduct going up underneath the road, like in the ditch, like where the water can run down, you know. I have an idea. I've got to hide. This is probably like 9 o'clock at night by this time. It's dark, of course, like I said. I shimmy my way down this storm drain. It's about 30 feet deep. And I shimmy myself all the way down, feet first, until I get to the very bottom. My feet stop at the end. While I'm down there, I'm still close enough to the surface that I can hear the vehicles and I can hear their music playing above me. And there's a really loud truck with a really loud muffler that I keep hearing circle, circle, circle. They're looking for me. I prayed so hard that night. By this time, I had found out about Mary Magdalene. I had found out about Jesus in the tomb. I had found out kind of like who I was, because I had been experiencing like past life episodes where I could like see into my past lives. So I knew where my royalty, where my DNA and all that stuff came from. Rooted in Egyptian heritage, Druid heritage, and then Christianity heritage, the chosen heritage. So I'm laying down in the storm drain 30 feet below the surface. It's cold. It's March. There's water at the bottom. There's mud. I'm laying in the mud with my, like this. It's cold. I have to pee. I ended up using the bathroom in the well because I had to go. But the second reason was because it kept me warm. I ended up starting my period that night while I was in the well. I stayed down there all night, and the whole time I talked to God about every sin I ever committed, about my whoredom, about my just every rebellious thing I had done against my Lord. I confessed and I asked for forgiveness. And in that moment, I felt like Jesus in the tomb. I did not stay down there for 3 days, but I stayed down there overnight until about 6 o'clock the next morning, when I quit hearing the cars circling. I shimmy my way back up out of the storm drain. Keep in mind, I'm still naked. Started my period. There's blood running down my legs. I run to the nearest house. There's angels on the front porch, similar to these little angels. So I knew that was a sign that I was okay to go to the house and ask for help. A lady comes to the door. She sees me standing there naked. She's like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" I told her what happened. I named the guy. I can't even remember his name now, but I named the guy who I'd been with. And she said, "Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense." Apparently he had, he was causing a lot of problems in the community and stuff with other people. She ended up calling 911. And the ambulance came, checked me out. They took me to the hospital, and they treated my legs were cut up from the barbed wire fence. Plus, I had been living at my mom's, who she didn't believe in putting flea medicine on her animals. So I'm real sensitive to flea bites, and so all the fleas that were in her house had attacked my legs, and so I had all these blisters from flea bites, and I had all these scratches from the barbed wire on my legs. And of course they had to scrub it, and it hurt so bad because they had to get me out of the infection. It was awful. Well, I was there for I was at the hospital in the emergency room that morning. I filed a police report. I never heard anything back. I was homeless at this point, kind of like what I'm about to be now. And I faked being crazy, which honestly by this point they had driven me crazy. So I faked that I was gonna hurt myself so I could go and stay in the psych ward at the hospital, because I didn't know where I was gonna go, and I didn't have anyone to call because my mom, whatever, and I had just moved back to Jasper, and my family, they all think I'm just I'm the black sheep of the family, so nobody ever supports me, So I ended up staying in the psych ward for a week, and I ended up detoxing off it wasn't alcohol, it was just it was ice. It was methamphetamine that I needed to detox from. So I spent a week there, and the whole time I'm worried about the notebooks that I lost. And I'm worried about them finding out all these secrets I know about the universe. And I'm worried about where I'm going to go. Well, my mom comes to get me because there's no one else to come. And I guess, she was feeling generous that day. She came and picked me up. She said, "Amanda," she said, "I know a lady who can help you. She's the preacher at the Episcopalian Church here in Jasper, and she can put you in a place where you can go and get your life together." I was like, yes, I need that, absolutely. I didn't know that they were talking about a rehab. I've never been to rehab. I probably needed to go before, but nobody told me that I was going to rehab. So the Episcopalian preacher, she came and talked to me. We went to get coffee, and I told her what had happened, and she was like, "Okay." She's like, "Yes." She's like, "I can take you to this place in North Alabama." I can't remember the name of the town. Anyway, I'll take you to this place. It's called The Landing. It's a place you can go to get your life together. No one said anything about rehab. So anyway, she ended up driving me about, it was like 2.5 hours away. Anniston is where it was. Anniston, Alabama. Called The Landing. It was run by a lady named Haley. And so I get there, and of course I'm shocked. I'm in shock because I've just come off like the most traumatic 2 years of my life, and I'm like in shock. Okay. This rehab was super strict. It was almost like a military style. It was a program that tore me down and, well, built me back up. It was based on the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. We read Alcoholics Anonymous. We went to 3 meetings a day. We had 2 big book studies a day. We worked. We did chores. I mean, average stuff. But this was hard. It was hard. It was harsh. I mean, I'm glad I went through it because it made me who I am today. But it was very harsh. And they were very harsh to me and very mean to me. And because I didn't want to associate with them, because I didn't trust people at this point, they took it as an insult, which it never was. And so, anyway, the rehab had supposedly been opened for however long, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years, something like that. And Haley supposedly had been looking at places to come down to South Alabama to start her rehab down here, because apparently she wanted to be closer to her daughter. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. And God had already been telling me about the coastlands. Like, he wanted me to be in the coastlands. He wanted Mount Zion in the coastlands. So when Haley told the house that we were moving down to Fairhope, I was excited because I was like, okay, yeah, this is great. I can go down and carry out my mission. I knew that my mission involved Elijah from the Bible, Ezekiel, Jeremiah. I knew that it had something to do with like the chosen and all that. Like I said, I was still very much new in my spirituality and my Christianity. Well, not new in Christianity, new in spirituality, a real relationship with God. So I knew that I was supposed to go to the coastlands. He had already been telling me that was part of the prophecy, go to the coastlands. And so I moved with Haley and like maybe 10 other girls down to Fairhope. Actually, the rehab's in Bay Minette, Alabama, which is in Baldwin County, Alabama. So we moved down to Bay Minette. We moved to the facility. I was there for like 2.5 years. I was very much ingrained in the Alcoholics Anonymous lifestyle. There's a very big community down here, very big recovery community, NA community, all that. So I got real heavily involved. I helped a lot of women get sober. I worked at a rehab center called The Shoulder in Mobile, Alabama. I was just really I thought I was really doing my mission for God, right? So, I worked low-wage jobs. I basically built myself up by myself with me and God. That was it, because certainly no family was helping me. No family, and I didn't have any friends outside of rehab because they were all, dope heads. And so the Alcoholics Anonymous became my family. I really trusted and loved them, and I helped them in their mission. I had a sponsor. Her name was Lori. Her husband's name is Jay. They're part of the Masons. But Lori will deny it. Jay talks about it. Anyway, so I was doing good. I was building my life up. I left rehab in 2021. And I ended up moving in with a lady named Billy. And I lived at her house for like 1.5 years, and then I got my own place. I didn't know at the time that I was back in the enemy's house when I moved back in with Billy. See, Billy was connected to the people who had chased me out of Fairhope into Jasper before I went to rehab. So I was back sleeping in the enemy's house again. I didn't know that at the time. I thought she was a really good friend, a sister I could trust, someone I could confide in. Because we were all supposedly living spiritual principles, I let my guard down. Because like I said, I didn't know that this was a whole setup. so I couldn't fulfill my prophecy. I moved out of Billy's house 2 years ago. Keep in mind, this whole time, I was hacked for my information before I went to rehab. While I was in rehab, they stole the information that was written in my notebooks and used it to profit. When I was in Billy's house, the notebooks that were in that house have also been, that information has also been sold off to a lady named Rosie Bloom who lives down here. She owns a spirituality business down here, or used to. I don't know really much about her now, but at the time, that was who was stealing my information. And, well, I'll get that too. So, while I was at Billy's, now see, this has all been revealed now, but while I was at Billy's, my intellectual property was stolen and sold. When I moved out of Billy's, I ended up, while I was at Billy's, I ended up dating this guy. His name was Nathan. I now know that he was set in as an operative to bring me down, because the whole goal was to get me destitute again, get me back in recovery again, so I could be hidden from the world, suppressed, hidden. So I start dating this guy, Nathan. Well, he's just horrible. He's a horrible boyfriend. I mean, awful. But I've worked through all this now, but I was codependent. I was very much relied on how he made me feel and the expectations that I wanted him to fulfill. Now, looking back on it, taking personal accountability, I understand my role in it, okay? But I will say that he was operating under a false image. I was not. And we dated for like 2 years. We break up, get back together, break up, get back together, break up. But I know he was cheating on me because, my intuition tells on me these things. But, he was always like, no, I'm not cheating, blah, blah. He was in a sex cult. I find out now. Anyway, that we dated for 2 years, and that relationship destroyed me, because when we broke up in 2023, like October of 2023, he immediately started dating this other woman, like 3 days after, like, we broke up. I saw him with another lady, her name, I found out, was Jennifer Ledoux, Ledoux. But neither of those names are true. That's not their names. Nathan was an operative sent in to bring me down. And the whole time, he and this Jennifer lady were part of this plan to gut me with my childhood wounds. Because, see, they knew, Alcoholics Anonymous knew what my wounds were, because I had a sponsor, and I was telling them, like, all. Plus, they've been hacking in my computer and reading my notebooks, so they knew what to target me with, okay? Betrayal and abandonment. Hang on, guys, I gotta hit my vape. So, Nathan betrayed me, abandoned me, and it brought out my most fiercest spirit-led initiation. Hecate came, Michael came, Azrael came, and they led me down a Sheol in a vision. And I went down there and I rescued my soul. Because, see, what they had been doing is witchcraft on me for the past 10 years. When I was a child, they cut my root chakra, metaphysically, with abuse, and left my root chakra open all those years. It's now healed. It's all healed now, so none of their witchcraft can work on me. But for years, I've been under attack by witchcraft, like since I was a baby, brought on by my stepmom and my dad who was in some secret organization. My family has been so split that a lot of the things I don't know about my dad's side of the family. Apparently, my grandfather was somebody and my dad was somebody. I didn't know because my mom kept me away from that side of the family. I kind of understand now why she did that. She probably sensed a lot of evilness, but my mom in the end became that anyway. So, I don't know. Anyway, so a lot of information was hidden from me about my dad's side of the family. So when this initiation happened with Hecate and Michael and Azrael, where I went to Sheol, I retrieved my soul, or I either retrieved my soul or I got a walk in. I believe at this point that my soul was so tired of all the stuff I had been through, because I've never really been supported. I've always done it on my own, and I've always had my angels with me. Since I was a little girl, I've always talked to angels. And so that's just who's been my helper. So I went to get my soul back from Sheol, or to get a new one, retire the old one. And I began having revelation, and I figured out that the thing I had channeled 10 years ago, that people had stolen from, made money on, I'm talking about, honey, I started whole real estate developments off my technique. I recently found out that that was what God was transmitting to me 10 years ago, was the law of the spirit of life. And you can find that in Paul's writings. He talks about it. You can also find this information to back it up in Romans. I'm going to share more information about all of it. But basically, it was the law of the spirit of life. Moses brought the law of the spirit of death, and I brought the law of the spirit of life. And the technique, the enlightenment technique that I'm supposed to teach y'all, is the law of the spirit of life. And the Masons and the Southern Brotherhood and the Illuminati, who have a huge population in South Alabama because they're connected to Hollywood, they've been stalking me for the past 10 years to shut me up about what they've done to me. So recently I've discovered that it's not just them, but it goes higher up into government. And I've been under attack for the past year. I've been gang stalked by 3 different groups. And gang stalked meaning followed wherever I go, in stores, on the road, at the gym. I pretty much quit going anywhere. I've been smear campaigned with diabolical information that's not true. They've done everything they can to kill me, including an attempted murder on my life 2 weeks ago using technological warfare. They have done everything they can to destroy me, and I'm still here 10 years later. I'm immortal. I can't be killed. I am Mount Zion. I'm Zion. My name is Zion. I'm the Lady of Hosts, the Lady of Angels. I know who I am now. My purpose is to bring heaven down to earth. Just like I was meeting my mind with the matter 10 years ago when I was going through my psychosis and trying to balance. Right now, I'm trying to bring heaven and earth together. And they're trying to suppress me. I was served an eviction notice this morning. I'm going to put a link. If you've watched this video and been inspired and feel led to help make the world a better place, I'm going to put a link to PayPal and a link to my Cash App below. I haven't been able to work because I've been blackballed in the community by whatever the tactics they've done this time. It's the same tactics they used 10 years ago. Nothing's changed. It's witchcraft. It's old witchcraft. And I'm trying to rid us of evil witchcraft because it goes against God's will. But I have had an awfully, awfully horrible experience trying to get people to believe me or to even be a part of this. They want to steal because they know what I have is important, but they don't want to acknowledge and recognize who I am. So I'm going to start telling my testimony. I'm going to start talking about the spirit of life. I'm going to start talking about all this. You can find my TikTok. It's Queen, I think it's Queen of Heaven 33 or something like that. I've been banned on TikTok twice. This is my 3rd account. I'm probably about to get banned again. But YouTube has become my regular place. I do angel messages. I'm about to upload one. So you can catch me here. But yeah, that's my testimony. And I'm really ready for this to be over with. I'll be out of my apartment in like 7 days. I don't know where I'm going, but I would like to have some money to go there with. I have no money. I have food stamps. That's it. Every which way I go, there's a dead end. They're trying to kill me. Thanks for listening.